Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome back to my playthrough of Pillars of Eternity. We are in the Elm's Reach area. We are heading into Ter Evran in order to pray to some gods. I don't know which gods. I don't know how. But we'll find out, I guess. Alright, the interior of Ter Evran. This is kind of scattered. Okay, we've got various things we can loot and or interact with. Shattered and charred stone blocks. Stone blocks the passage into the shadow and sun. Alright, what's this over here? Bookcase. Book of the Hunt. Daily affirmations of focus and efficiency. Sermon of Struggle. The Midwife's Memoirs. The Queen that was and still is. I'm going to grab them all. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab them. I'll grab them. What else we got? We got over here an altar with a luminescent Adra shard. That's a quest item. Okay, that was interesting. That Adra shard opened these things up. And each one of these is a different deity. And am I going to have to read those books that I picked up? Got Magrin, Abaddon, and Galawain. I got Hylia, Berith, Andra, Skane, and Rimgrand. And I freaking hate Skane. Nothing happens when you approach Wodika's shrine. A piercing ring fills your ears as you near Whale's shrine. There is no other effect. Let's go with Magrin and all them. Before this shrine sits the constellation of a snarling hound, fangs bared. Pray to Galawain. As you kneel before the shrine and prepare to recite the ritual words. Crap. No, I do have to read those freaking... Okay, I have to read the prayer books. God damn. Alright, let's open up a stash. The Midwife's Memoirs. My mother lived every note of life's song. Bringing me into this world was her last verse. For this, my father scorned me and abandoned me, and for this same fact, my town's midwife and adherent of Hylia raised me as her own. When I came of age, I learned that Hylia visits us on the screams of women in childbirth, and when a woman dies, giving life to her child, her soul is carried away and reborn as an avian attendant of Hylia's court. Through the miracle of the Queen of Birds, my mother has been with me, watching over me my whole life. I wear the fetish charms of the cloud singer, the bird I dreamt my mother became. My feathery trinkets look gaudy and unbecoming, but it is a signal fire to women in need that I am a trained midwife, blessed by Hylia, and living every note of life's song. The Queen of Birds wills us to shepherd new life into the world, and not, as other gods so often desire, to end it. A follower of Magrin once mocked my faith, saying I worship paintbrushes and birds, piddling things beneath the gods. I do not resent the other gods and the brutal necessities that they must oversee, but it is not language, love, the arts, and creativity which separates us from simple beasts. Hylia allows us to rise above our savage, feral selves. I am often amused that, upon seeing our holy aviaries, visitors frequently ask, "This is nice, but where is the real temple of Hylia?" Perhaps they think that hallowed ground requires suppressive stoneworks and ceilings that hide the sky. They do not realize the Bird Queen stands not on ceremony. She makes herself manifest in the music of birds and in beauty in the ubiquitous open sky. Hylia prefers the worship of two children singing over 1,000 petitioners silently praying for victory. The Sky Mother asks so little of us, and yet so much. We are charged to live every note of life's song. It surprises me how many fail to embrace this divine calling. That doesn't sound like a particular prayer I need to memorize. But what do we have here? Hylia is down here. Pray to Hylia. Live every note of life's song. Your words seem to ring in the air, your voice rendered melodic and lilting by some unseen art. You shut your eyes to pray. As you wait in darkness, the world around you changes. You feel sunlight, bright and warm, on your face. A light breeze carries music to your ears. As vivid as these sensations feel, you somehow know they are not real. You look around and find yourself standing in an open-air temple built on a mountain summit. It's filled with elves, orlans, and assorted other kith. Ringing the entire scene is a fringe of trees, their verdant branches filled with birds of all different colors, shapes, and sizes. A paradise for those who would waste their lives exploring the meaningless while corrupting the meaning of the real world. Oh, to set these trees ablaze, Watcher. Everyone is singularly absorbed in a particular pursuit. An Orlan sits with a canvas, a paintbrush in his hand, and jars of green, blue, and yellow pigments at his feet. An elf and an Almawa standing to the side are locked in conversation, their expressions dancing with delight. Still others scribble stanzas of poetry or crude sketches on sheets of paper, losing themselves in the delicate minutiae of lines and syllables. You feel the breeze again, and two elves basking in the sunlight shiver. The largest group gathers in the middle of the temple. They sing a lush, chaotic harmony composed of several complementary melodies. Others drift toward the singers in ones and twos, as if buffeted by a gust of wind or a phrase of the song. A ripple passes through the trees. You think it's the wind, but the chirping changes to screeching. Hundreds of birds take to the skies, all heading in one direction, away. Something must be coming. The devotees glance at the trees, just barely distracted from their activities, but the wind picks up, scattering their passages of poetry and art and ripping the songs from their lips. They look skyward, and you follow their gaze. A dark shape blots out the sun. You can't tell what it is, but as it unfolds and expands, it seems to fill the sky. The wind roars over the summit. That explains the birds. Before you can flee, a shadow falls over the temple. It begins as a stain in the corner and spreads, blotting out the flagstones. It reaches the nearest kith, a black-furred Orlan. The darkness swallows her, leaving only a puff of smoke in her place. The two elves that you saw earlier, a man and a woman, flee. You get a brief image of them huddled in the shadow of a mountain. They seem to see you, too, and they reach out, calling silently after you. The others, however, seem frozen. As the shadow advances, they likewise vanish, one by one. The driving gale scatters their ashes and the charred remnant remains of their creations. Songs of joy turn to screams of agony. What purpose, what lesson could possibly lie behind such destruction? You look up again at the source of the shadow, but the eclipsed sun forms a blinding corona around the thing. You can't make out any details. You can, however, feel heat. Restore my temple. You look down and find yourself standing next to Hylia's shrine in Tir Evon. Your pulse still races and your skin is damp with sweat from your strange encounter. So I must travel to Hylia's temple and restore it, apparently. What is next? Magrin. Let's see. There's one. Let's look at Bereth, I guess. Now, do I need to get the aid of all of the gods? I think so. Let's try Bereth next. Which means I've got to go ahead and read through another book. You know, I've already been to a Temple of Bereth. I should know this right off the bat. Pray to Bereth. There is life in death and death in life. That is Bereth's one. There's a rippling shift in the air around you, as if some unfelt wind has changed, bringing unexpected warmth. You feel the peculiar weight of an unseen presence and of eyes upon you. You kneel and pray to Bareth. Even while your eyes are closed, you see a road that seems to stretch on forever. The stars wheel overhead in a clockwork rotation of constellations, disappearing over the horizon to your left, only to rise on your right. You try to make out the details on either side of the road, but your eyes can't seem to focus. One moment you think you see a meadow blanketed with mist, and another sheer canyon walls. For just an instant, you see the waves lapping at the edges of the road. Where you step onto the shifting landscape, you feel certain you would only end up back on the road. You know this is a vision, but the packed dirt feels firm beneath your feet and the night air cool on your face. You are walking. Your feet seem to carry you forward of their own accord. Something looms ahead of you. As you get closer, you can see two stone figures that look strangely familiar. You remember the door to Cleaban Rilag and the two figures carved into the mountain next to it. One looks vaguely male and the other vaguely female. Only a thin layer of flesh covers their skeletal bodies, which twist to face the doorway between them. The doorway, however, is not what you saw in the ruins. It's a skull, gaping and jawless, and as you look on, its open mouth seems to grow. The arms of the two stone sculptures are swept toward the mouth, inviting you in. The road continues through the maw to another shifting landscape surrounded by stars. As you pass it, you see an identical doorway in the distance. A dwarven man stands near it, unmoving. You turn and look behind you, only to see the skull gate you just passed facing you. An elven woman waits in the road. Like the dwarf, she stands still. Approach the dwarven man. You continue down the road toward him. He looks up as you approach, but you can't tell if he's looking at you or through you. His face is smooth but flaccid, as if the flesh is detached from the muscles underneath. As you look on, his face begins to change. Wrinkles crack at the corner of his eyes. His mouth sinks, carving deeper lines from his nose to the corners of his lips. His jowls sag, and the loose flesh hangs like dough. He raises his cupped hands. They're covered in blood. He lifts them to his face and smears himself from his newly creased forehead to the wattles of his neck. As he massages the dark, sticky fluid into his skin, the flesh wrinkles and disappears, the hanging folds recede, and his flesh tightens as if re-adhering to his skull. He lifts his head, and this time, you know he's looking at you. His renewed face looks like a mask, artificially smooth and still. Behind it, his black eyes are two hungry pits, yawning like the empty mouths of skulls. Come, make your sacrifice to the Ethic Knoll. His body blocks the path. He extends a bloody hand towards you. Take it. You grab his hand, but his skin gives too easily under your grip. As you try to pull away, you hear a noise like dried canvas tearing. His skin splits, following a long seam that begins at his arm and stretches the length of his body. Blood gushes forth in such quantities that you can't imagine there was ever anything else in him. Sure enough, as the dwarf empties of blood, he collapses like a desiccated husk. The blood in the path gleams with 1,000 souls' worth of essence. The essence evaporates, trailing shining filaments into the night sky. Only now that he is dead can you continue onward. The blood pools around your feet, and you look up and see the elven woman waiting further down the road. You start toward her. There's something unnatural about the way she stands. She's too still. When you get closer, you see that her legs taper into a slender trunk, and in place of her feet are gnarled, twisting roots. She lifts her face to an invisible sun. Her long, golden hair is the color of autumn leaves, and as you look more closely, you realize that her head is actually covered with tendrils and vines sprouting brilliant yellow leaves. Each glimmers with the essence of an entire soul. She gives you a beatific smile. As you look on, the leaves slowly fall from her head and settle at her roots. They melt into the path beneath her, and almost immediately new leaves sprout in the place of the old. She reaches toward you, still smiling as roots spring from her fingertips. Her outstretched arms bar the path. Come, graft your soul to the golden grove. Her roots twine about your fingers, and as they do, they grow rigid and cold. Her outstretched arm petrifies, and as a rough stone bark overtakes her flesh, she can only look on in horror. You break away from her brittle grasp. Her feet are rooted in place, but she twists and writhes as if trying to flee her own dying limb. The petrification reaches her shoulder and spreads down her body, freezing it in a painful arc. It sweeps up her neck, and she throws her face skyward like a drowning swimmer. The grayness covers her face, freezing her gasp in stone. Now that she is still and lifeless, you can continue past her. Only the golden leaves on her head remain untouched, and as you watch, they fall one by one to the path below. They shrivel as the shimmering essence fades from them. A voice echoes along the road, barely more than a whisper on the breeze. Return them to the wheel. You lift your gaze and see the skull gate ahead of you on the path. The candles of Ter Everin wink through the open mouth. Okay. End the lives of the two figures from Barath's vision. That's kind of dark, actually. Got Abaddon, Gawain, and Magrin. Okay. I need to read the Abaddon real quick. All errors can be reforged into lessons. Work hard, work well. All ignorance can be reforged into knowledge. Each generation must forge its successors. All difficulties can be forged into triumphs. Embrace your station, fulfill the duties of your rank, and meddle not in the affairs of your betters. All loss can be reforged into strength. Value the works of others, and so on. So all souls can be reforged into whatever we will. So let's get that out of the way. That is Abaddon. No, that's Gawain. God damn it. No. Where's the Abaddon one? The Shrine of Gawain. Give me a second. I gotta actually look at that one. I was reading the wrong freaking book. Okay, Shrine of Gawain. That's the Hunt one, right? Book of the Hunt. Does one ask a deer to present itself as dinner? One must outwit, outmaneuver, and overpower the deer. So is the seeker god. To ask a question is weakness and idle indecision. To seek answers is to understand and to become one with Gawain. Survival begins with strength from within. I think that actually about covers it. Okay. Let's try that one. Let's look for something along those lines then. Right to Gawain. Survival begins with strength from within. The air around you stirs, and a gust of warm wind blows across the back of your neck. You catch the faintest smell of wet earth. As you kneel in front of the shrine, you feel yourself pushed forward. You catch yourself on your hands and knees, feeling warm, damp ground beneath them. Looking around, you find yourself crouched in a clearing in the middle of the woods. The smell of dirt hangs heavy in the air. Behind you is a darkened room filled with candlelit shrines. Ahead, you hear the howl of some kind of hound. You feel certain this is a vision, but the hairs on the nape of your neck still rise.
The scent of sweat, fur, loam, leaves, the discordant howls. I believe Gawain's herald approaches.
So how come Heravius gets a freaking voiceover and the others don't? Howl back. The beast bays in response, his voice high and clear. The thick undergrowth shivers with movement, and heavy paws pound the wet grass. You're not certain if the creature is hunting or leading you, but you instinctively give chase. As you tumble through the dew-speckled bushes and clawing brambles, each stride feels longer than the last. You draw lungfuls of crisp, clear air and feel your energy renewed. The rhythm of your stride and the thumping of the beast's paws drive the blood thrumming into your ears. You speed ahead, following the hound's cries, when a split-finger pine crashes to the ground in front of you. A massive bear lunges into the gap and roars. It catches sight of you. You turn and race in the opposite direction, leaping over the fallen tree trunk. Pine cones crunch underfoot. The bear lumbers after you. Its hot breath washes over the back of your neck, filling your nose with a rank odor of slaughter. You see a clearing, just past a thicket of broadleaves, and sprint toward it. As you break through the foliage, you see a massive lioness curled up in the clearing in front of you. With a last burst of energy, you divert your momentum and hurl yourself into the bushes. Any second now, you expect to feel the bear fall upon you, but a furious roar on the other side of the clearing draws your attention. The bear has stopped at the tree line. It swipes the empty air with claws large enough to rend armor, but it does not advance. The lioness, for her part, twists her body into a tight coil. She growls, her ears pressed against her head, but she makes no move to attack the intruder. Whose idea was it to stand here? You back deeper into the foliage, keeping your eyes on the two mighty predators. As you crawl backward, the heel of your hand brushes something furred. A warm sigh grazes your cheek. You freeze in place, slowly turning your head to see what waits behind you. Two amber eyes
Holy
shine in the
Hound
darkness.
himself! It's not just his herald, it's the Lord of the Hunt! Here!
The Orlin drops to one knee as his hands dart about his pockets and snatch the rusted hound's head icon buried within. The eyes meet your gaze briefly, then turn into the standoff in the clearing. The hound behind you yawns, fangs flashing. When you turn back, the lion and the bear have disappeared. In their place is a stone wolf's maw, gaping wide enough to swallow you whole. Beyond it is the outline of a temple, towering but indistinct. Blood must feed the maw, watcher. See that a true champion reigns. So that's a new quest. And somehow I'm not getting... I don't want to pray to Galawain, I want to pray to the others, but I can't. I cannot, because it's not going to let me. So over here, what god do I got to look up here? Pray to Rimgrand. All life ends in stillness, I believe. You feel a sudden gust of cold air, as if the shrine were bursting into wintry life. The frigid wind cuts through you like a sharpened blade, and darkness encroaches upon the edges of your sight. You kneel and close your eyes. As you pray, the blackness fades to white, and a howling wind fills your ears. The vision that slowly resolves itself is of a broad, frozen plain. You see a procession of elves in the distance, periodically fading into and emerging from the whiteness. They trudge over snowbanks, their heads down against the driving winds. I know this place. This is the white that wins. As they trek past you, one man bundled in furs turns his head. You headed for Noonfrost and the Frost-hewn Breach, too? Before you can answer, he's lumbered ahead. You follow the caravan, and in a couple of minutes, you come to a wall of ice. It disappears into the pale emptiness overhead and stretches as far as you can see in either direction. The elves stop in front of a mirror-smooth section that's framed like a temple door. It seems somehow thinner than the rest of the wall. You can't see what's on the other side, but a debilitating cold emanates from within. The elves pull pickaxes and shovels from their sealskin packs and begin hacking at the smooth ice, their implements flying through the air in swift, shining arcs. Though they throw their bodies into their labor, not one of them so much as scratches the polished ice. Yet with each blow, something bellows in the distance. Whatever that is huge and angry, and is coming our way. Hey, you might want to hold off on that. The elves hack away, seemingly oblivious to the furious lowing, and to the tremors under your feet. The snow has risen to your knees. Your legs feel frozen in the drifts. Wait. You watch as the elves continue to work at the ice. They pay no heed to the rumbling roar or the numbing wind. Their movements, however, gradually slow. They labor at the ice with arduously sluggish movements until they finally freeze in place, some mid with swing and others preparing for the next blow. You touch the elf nearest to you, and he crumbles into a mound of snow. A final gale blows past, scattering the remains of the elves in a chaotic flurry. You notice a single spiderweb crack in the smooth barrier. It's the only thing that mars the perfect surface of the ice. Whatever is on the other side of the strange doorway, you feel it tugging at you. Only when you look back and see the parallel gashes trailing behind your legs in the snow do you realize how strong its pull is.
My end comes to all things in time. Seal the frost-hewn breach, and instruct the pilgrims in the patience of Remergond.
Plug the hole with a handful of snow. You fill your hand with snow and shove it into the crack. It hardens instantly, and a hoary rime grows over the smooth surface of the frozen doorway, fusing it with the rest of the wall. When you take your hand away, a perfect crystal of ice remains in your palm. As you examine the crystal, the vision around you fades, but the unmelting shard of ice remains in your hand. Okay, addendum, the Council of Stars. And I think Into the White Void. Find Noonfrost in Twin Elms. I think that is it. I mean, I know there's more gods there.
Alright then.
But maybe... Okay, no.
Hey.
So maybe I have to do some before I finish others. Like I have to do... When there's 3 of them, I have to do each one in turn. So this is enough for now. And, yeah, to be perfectly honest, I think I'm going to wrap this episode. Well, let's head out just to make sure nothing's going to ambush me on the way out. Well, nobody ambushed me on the way out, so what I will do is I will call this episode here, and we will start looking into each of the individual quests in the next episode. For now, this has been the RPG Crawler with Pillars of Eternity. If you like what you've seen, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more RPG content. Until next time, take care and goodbye.